Hello, welcome from the library. Today I'm going to be showing you how to use online reference resources. These are especially quality resources from online databases or online platforms that are owned by your community college library. And you're especially most often going to want to use these when you want to, say, look up a concept, a theory, look up some quick facts, get some background about a particular topic that you're researching. And most often, that's where you want to go to first rather than Google at large, which if you search Google at large, anybody can author anything, unfortunately. You think that everything you might come across might be of quality. That's not guaranteed. And unfortunately, the Google search engine is easily manipulated, that sometimes you can actually get wrong information or at least very, say, biased towards a particular point of view or politics or something such as that. And in most cases, you want to begin from a more neutral standpoint. In addition to that, you might think about wikipedia.org, and I'm sure by now most of you are aware that when it comes to Wikipedia, anybody can author a Wikipedia article, and anybody can edit a Wikipedia article. And that itself does not guarantee that type of quality that you would get by, say, an expert that exactly knows what they're talking about. So instead, most often where you want to begin when it comes to your research is you want to start with your library website and then select a database. So we'll start here in the library homepage and we'll click on the databases link. Now from here, where we want to go to for today is this particular third tab from the left called Pro, Con, and Reference. As you can see, it's divided into 4 different pages. There's what's called Pro, Con, and Reference. There's biographies. There's with careers and countries and statistics. And so biographies is where you want to go to get, information about particular famous persons. And careers, of course, to learn more about a particular career. And countries and stats, exactly as it defines, you're going to look up certain countries and stats. Now, Pro, Con, and Reference is most often where you would want to go to first to get your general background of your topic. Now, from here, you want to select Gale Ebooks. And why Gale Ebooks? Well, Gale Ebooks contains a lot of subject encyclopedias. So if you've ever been impressed about the degree of information that Wikipedia article supposedly has, and yeah, there's a list of references at the end, and perhaps your instructor may have told you, well, if you use Wikipedia at all, you use one of those resources. Well, you still have to go on the good bet that the particular author or person that went in to add or subtract something from an article, if they selected a resource, that resource was actually of reasonable quality. There absolutely is hardly any control there, quality control there. Whereas if you go to a subject encyclopedia entry, you get a similar type of expertise as, say, someone who writes a journal article. Now, journal articles are usually written by an academic from a particular discipline. So say a sociologist who writes their articles for other sociologists in their same type of field. And of course, the article is then looked at with extra editing scrutiny in case of a peer reviewed by quite at least a few different similar experts in the same field to determine that their research is good and sound. Now, for subject encyclopedias, they are written by the similar type of experts, but in this case, the general audience is the lay audience. such as you, the student, who may know nothing about that topic, but just want to learn more about it. And that's where would be a good place to go to get that background, to get that, to learn more about that particular concept, issue, historical event, etc., and so forth. So from the pro and con and reference page, under Gale Reference Resources, go to Gale Ebooks. It will take you to the screen. Now, your username is your WID number, and your password is your 6-digit PIN. If you have forgotten your password, we recommend that you go to Class Web. And let me just remind you how to get to Class Web here from the college homepage. From the college homepage, if you scroll towards the bottom of the screen, you will have this link that says Register at Class Web. And then as you can see from here, there's a link that says Sign on to Class Web. And as you can see here, there's a button here that says Forgot PIN. Enter your WID number. Click on Forgot PIN, and then you can reset your PIN. And then, say about 10 minutes later, you should be able to then access into our database, such as Gale Ebooks. So again, your WID number and your 6-digit Class Web PIN, click on Login, and that will take you into the database. Now, Gale Ebooks is nicely defined into various different collections. So we have one here, for example, titled Hot Topics. That's deliberately listed on the top, as well as our newer titles listed right after. And then, as you can see, we have some other different categories and disciplines, such as I see here, anthropology, the arts, biographies, education, family studies, law, literature, and even this very large one here for the social sciences. As you can imagine, most of the subject encyclopedias that we as a library purchase. And these are all ebooks that, in fact, we actually own. That, of course, most of them would be in the area of social sciences. Now, in most cases, though, instead of browsing, you probably will have a definite topic in mind. So right now, we're going to do a research to learn more about daylight savings time. So it found for us 17 results. And so what you find here are all these various different encyclopedia entries from different types of subject encyclopedias. So this first one here, which is about clocks, is from the Encyclopedia Products and Industries of Manufacturing. The second one here is from an encyclopedia called Energy in Context. The third here is from American Decades, Volume 8, 1970 to 1979. I wonder what the connection might be in terms of why there is daylight savings time. We may already get some ideas based on some of these results. Energy in the 1970s seems to pop up again. We also have some 1940s popping up. We have, the 1973 energy crisis. That may give us some insight as to maybe why we have daylight savings time. Arizona, interestingly, comes up. Arizona, in case you don't know, does not observe daylight savings time. So we definitely have quite a few different types of results come up, and probably the best starting point, I would argue, if we really want to know about daylight savings time and we hardly have that much information as to why it exists, my hunch is to begin with this one that's actually titled Daylight Saving Time, and see what it says here. So here we have our encyclopedia entry. And if you're thinking, encyclopedias are only, a paragraph or a blurb, like you used to say Encyclopedia Britannica or Funk and Wagnalls or Encyclopedia Americana or World Encyclopedia. Subject encyclopedias usually are often more meaty. They are authored by the expert at hand. So you see here, we have an author listed here named William Arthur Atkins. And then listed below is our introduction. This nicely encyclopedia entries is broken down into subcategories. We have historical background and scientific foundations. Ooh, we even have a glossary here of terms, it looks like. Benjamin Franklin apparently was an important influence, it looks like. What are the impacts and issues of daylight savings time? And then as you see down below, we have an additional list of resources. And these resources are similar to like your works cited or references list you see at the end of a peer-reviewed journal article. The author here who's definitely an expert into this field in energy, has then suggested particular books you might want to look forward to. And then you can check to see if the library has it, such as this one titled Spring Forward, The Annual Madness of Daylight Saving, and Seize the Daylight, the curious and contentious story of daylight saving time. You can also explore different websites or articles that are listed below, and sometimes these particular articles may actually still be up. And yeah, here is a study that you can read here, where this author is arguing that daylight saving time is in fact now a waste of energy. And so this person who is a specialty in their area, phys.org, probably physics, you would probably still want to evaluate the website as you would for Wikipedia, but at least in this case, this is definitely written by an expert who has already looked at and evaluated this and thus has used this as an insightful resource for their encyclopedia overview entry that they wrote. So as you can see, it is usually more than a page long and definitely can be quite meaty. Notice here on the top right, you can explore for similar concepts. And these are important because you can then find additional information using different vocabulary that may have not occurred to you. So, I mean, the argument usually for daylight saving time is about energy conservation. And so you can definitely click on any of these links, such as this one here, energy conservation related to energy supply, sustainability, and cost. And then you can get a good overview about energy conservation. And then you can have a better understanding why that is important related to why we have daylight savings time. Of course, we have daylight savings time as a related subject itself. I suspect if we click on that, actually led us to fewer results, led us to only 2. And of course, back to this entry. So it looks like we already started at probably the most subject relevant entry here. But I mean, as you come across your results, you should always jot some of these down because they may help as you continue on your research for your speech, your presentation, your research paper, or for your general information and knowledge. Now, this was copyrighted 2016. So when you look up subject encyclopedias, this is probably one area where it might seem not as strong as a Wikipedia article, is that it's not fully up to date. So let's say, for example, that since 2016, the state of California has actually passed a proposition that is making the case that once approved by the federal government, that they are allowed to do this. So there's that certain little extra requirement there, that For then on, every day in California will be daylight savings time. Well, that's definitely insightful and interesting, but obviously would not appear here in the 2016 entry. So what's important is, say you're specially preparing for a speech and you don't need to, say, look up, say, 12 journal articles on your topic. You might want to go into, say, a newspaper database or a magazine database that has a lot of magazines in it, and then narrow your search, say, to the last 4 years. This is 2020 when I've recorded this. And to see maybe what new information has happened since that date. I mean, if you're savvy and can evaluate websites, of course, you could go out of the commercial web itself. And of course, the state of California would have such information if you are aware of California's proposition from 2018. But definitely that's where else you can go. Now, let's do a couple of other searches here. Let's say we start to go into certain controversial topics, such as climate change. So from our results here, as you can see, it's a very written, often topic, as you can imagine, that appears in a lot of encyclopedias. And so we found 4,859 results. Notice it's sorted by relevance. We can, by the way, sort by publication date if we wish, because oftentimes we want to find more up-to-date information. Although sometimes this can lead us to less relevant results, such as it's leading us to the Hunger Games from, you know, a literary criticism and overview that was written in 2020. So we probably are better at relevance in this particular case. And it looks like we have a 2018 resource we can look at here on climate change. Again, our article is written by an expert, but sometimes they're not listed on the top, sometimes they may not be listed towards the bottom. And sometimes, and as you can see here in this particular case, let's see, it's Kim Evans who's our author. We've discovered this by not the exact place I would expect it. Usually they have the author clearly listed either towards the top of the page or the bottom. I'm going to hunt a little bit and see where they found her name, because that's important that you know who authored. And there are a few items here, even this meeting, that sometimes may not have a signed author. And of course, I mean, if you're citing your resource, I'll be curious where they got this author. I probably would have cited this as simply climate change and what book it was, and not list the author, because I don't clearly see an author. Perhaps they're referring to maybe the editor of this book, I don't know. But this is the exception to the rule. Usually your author will be listed either towards the top or the bottom of your entry. And as you can already see here, this is a very meaty article. So we have all sorts of discussion of climate change, discussion of carbon dioxide, methane, a lot of statistics for information. And yeah, we definitely have a lot of meaty information here. And so this is definitely probably a wonderful, good resource you might want to use for, say, your argumentative paper. Whether for or against, you can definitely use the item about this topic. And so definitely you get a good, you see in most cases your encyclopedia entry is pages long. In fact, if you're wondering how many pages this might be, if we selected the print icon here in the top right, let's see, scrolling towards the bottom, wow, this is since there's only a document on page 26, it's actually a 25-page entry here. So sometimes your subject encyclopedia entries can be longer than a journal article. I know you never thought that would be the case, but that can often happen. Notice here that it goes to more like this and tells you other places that you can go to do your research. We have related subjects listed here. So in addition to climate change, you might want to make note of weather, fossil fuels, global warming is a term that's often used for climate change, carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, the ozone, greenhouse gases. You jot some of those down because depending where you're going in your research, using those as your search terms may lead you to some other key topics and other key entries that may further provide insight in your research, especially when it comes to narrowing down your topic, which I hope is definitely the intent. Usually when you're looking up subject encyclopedia entries, unless you're already looking for background for something you've already written quite a bit about for your paper or speech, you're usually just beginning and getting ideas here, but those are definitely good places to go to get good ideas. Sometimes common topics. I'm recording this in March 2020, so definitely a hot topic in March 2020 is, of course, the coronavirus pandemic. And once again, when we enter pandemics as a search term, we get 3,026 results. Even if we sorted this by date, as you can imagine, nothing has been printed yet on this topic. You're not going to find a subject encyclopedia entry. So, I mean, where you would want to go for reference would probably be this rare instance where you want to go on the web. But I always recommend beginning at the library because if you notice here from the home page on the lower right, we actually have a coronavirus news and information link. And lo and behold, here's a map on current cases, as well as a list of additional resources. Now, that doesn't mean that you should not use Gale ebooks for, say, a topic or a speech that you're writing about it. There may be some good historical or general information you can find on this topic. This isn't the first pandemic that has ever happened in the United States, and definitely not in the world. I mean, we can all go all the way back to medieval times, for example, and discuss the bubonic plague, for example. But you'll notice here that we definitely have some good subject encyclopedia entries, and some of them are even fairly recent from 2018. One that probably might meet your interest, especially if you're talking about, say, the general reaction to pandemics, say, from government officials around the world, let alone in our own country. We have this term called panic reflex, pandemic, science, and politics. And notice here, I showed you another example of how to find a number of pages, but here, as you can see, there's 25 pages related to your topic. So you're definitely getting a very meaty entry here. And once again, we have our overview. We have a whole overview about a history about pandemic preparedness. From the viewpoint of around 2017, we have a section here on are we prepared for the next pandemic? And conclusion. Interesting. This expert author here seems to be actually making an unusually, what you might rarely find in an encyclopedia entry, a certain evaluation of the circumstance here, and says that in general we can be panic prone and we would be underprepared, which is definitely, I would say, from any one of us who are currently going through this pandemic right now, would probably be very interested in what this author has to say. Now, once again, the author isn't clearly listed on the top. Author is listed here again in the citation. I guess one thing that we could investigate is at least seeing who the editor is. And let's see, Robert Schneider is the name of the author of the book, and Robert Schneider is listed of this entry. So that's why the author isn't clearly listed here like an encyclopedia entry. All of this is one of those rare instances where it's written by the same author here. And so, not only does this section or this chapter of this book probably provide our interest, but maybe this entire book might be of interest of your reading, depending on how much time and how much depth you want to pursue for this article. Now, what to do when we come across a resource that we want to use later. So we can, of course, download our article. When we download, it will usually be in PDF format, sometimes on HTML format. So it'll be like a photocopy of the original pages from that book itself. So bringing this up. Yeah, in fact, this is a whole book chapter, it looks like in this case. So we have a whole book chapter for our meaty subject encyclopedia entry here. We can select print. By the way, if you're on campus, you do need a Go print card, and the cost is 10 cents per page. So most cases, you probably want to print this off campus, which right now, as we're going through the pandemic, I'm pretty sure you probably are off campus already right now. As of March 27, 2020, our entire campus is closed, of course, due to the pandemic. And as you notice down here, we have other options here. We can download onto a cloud where you see the clouds, and then you sign in to, say, either a Microsoft account or other related account. This with this recycle here is going to our Google Drive. But we can also email this article. And what's nice about all three of these is that we can save this for future storage. So if we're at a different computer later, we can definitely retrieve that article through any of these methods. I definitely recommend, in addition to saving it, whether to your cloud or to your hard drive, to also email it to yourself. So you definitely have another means of finding it. So enter your email address. You're sending from yourself, just so you know it's from you. Select that. Subject line is very, very important. Always fill something in your subject line if it's blank, because it might end up in your spam folder. In this case, we have the entire title for this chapter right here. And then we're going to send as full text and click on send. Okay, I've talked about quite a bit today, but let me show you once again how I got to Gale Ebooks. From the library homepage, and especially in March, you're probably first going to come across this page that says that we're closed, but you can skip to the library homepage. Click on the Databases tab. Go to Pro, Con, and Reference. In this case, we will select Pro, Con, and Reference. And then you notice listed here is Gale Ebooks. By the way, if you are writing an argumentative paper or a persuasive speech or participate in a debate, you'll especially be interested in these additional resources on top of Gale Ebooks, such as the pro-con overviews and viewpoints for more information. And of course, there's other scientific type databases and other reference resources that you can go to. So that's it for today. If you have any questions and need help, well, where can you go to? Well, if you notice from our homepage, we have listed on the right in the center where it says Ask Us, that is the library chat box. And we have reference services available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you go ahead and enter your name. Email is important, so if there's a lost connection or there needs to be follow-up, another librarian can follow up with you, especially if you lose connection. And then state your question here. Looking for historical background, say, on pandemics. And then click on connect. And then 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, a librarian from around the world will be able to help you. So say Saturday at 2 a.m., you can definitely get assistance. Now, when the library is open, and right now we are open virtually. So one of us librarians is actually literally staffed at a computer as if we were at the reference desk at the library, ready to provide you assistance. So if we click on our hours link here for a second, and oh, actually I was meant, let me go to here where it says today's hours. So yeah, I mean, it does say that we're closed because, of course, we're closed off campus, and looks like our computer's being super slow at the moment. But that would lead you to what our current hours are. And in the spring of 2020, with the exception, of course, of the week of spring break, we are open 7:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, Fridays 8:30 a.m. Excuse me, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's Saturdays, we're open 8:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. And during that time, one of us librarians will be at a computer from our home or wherever we are at the time, and we can help you step by step on how to use a database such as Gale Ebooks. So thank you for today, and good luck in your research.